Imagine learning that the individual you trusted most, the one in charge of your family's well-being, could be spending money for themselves and letting children go hungry and fight. Picture the teens having to take it upon themselves to feed their younger siblings, fund their basic necessities, and in some way keep a roof overhead, while the father lives high on luxury vehicles, big houses, and all that money can provide. For Sister Wives fans, this isn't a TV drama, this is reality. And the subject of it all? Kody Brown, the subject of millions of viewers who've watched him for years, now accused of stealing TLC funds and not feeding his own children. The life of Kody Brown, as the patriarch of the Sister Wives household, has long been subject to public scrutiny. Viewers have been tuning in for years, captivated by the polygamous family relationship, the special demands of merging several households, and the emotional roller coaster of this extraordinary family arrangement. On screen, Kody comes across as the patriarchal figure, the father, the family leader. Off-screen, however, a very different picture has been unfolding, one that is both disturbing and extremely troubling. McKelie Padron, one of Kody's children, recently made revelations about her father that left fans stunned. McKelie claimed that Kody controlled the family finances in a manner that enabled him to determine who got money, when they got it, and how much. The allegations are serious. TLC money, which was supposed to contribute to his children's upkeep and the basic household expenses, was not always spent on those necessary things. Rather than this, money appears to have been redirected to personal expenditures, luxury cars, upscale residences, and other conveniences that did not accrue to the children. Imagine you were a teenager growing up in that home. Rather than having the freedom to enjoy your youth, you are tasked with caring for and feeding younger siblings. You watch your father arrive and depart, but he never seems to be around when he is needed most. McKelie felt as though her father was a stranger, a man who appeared only from time to time, usually when there were cameras present, and who played favorites with some of the children while ignoring others. This imbalance caused tension, confusion, and hurt feelings among children. In interviews, McKelie shared that children tended to feel invisible, ignored, and emotionally neglected. The youngest children, including Truly, at times went uncared for, while older siblings, including McKelie and Aspen, were left to take care of the household without parental direction. Consider the kids stuck with caring for kids. That's not neglect, that's a burden no one should bear. The story only becomes more complicated when we look at the financial model of the show. TLC compensated the family via an LLC, Kody Brown Family Entertainment, with Kody as the head of distribution. While Adult Wives and Kody himself were paid for their work on the show, Kody had control over how and when those monies were distributed. McKelie proposes that although money had been set aside for family expenses, it was not used regularly for family essentials such as food, clothing, or shelter. Rather, Kody reportedly spent extravagantly on himself, moving personal indulgences above the needs of his children. Money needs to be feeding your children, clothing them, and putting a roof over their heads. But what if the person holding the purse strings decides to splurge it all on themselves? Fans have long debated the fairness of the Brown family's financial arrangements, but McKelie's revelations shed new light on the matter. She explains that the children grew up watching their father enjoy comforts they themselves did not have access to, and witnessing him prioritize certain children over others created deep emotional wounds. Favoritism, in this case, was not just about love, it had real-life consequences on how attention, care, and financial resources were distributed. Kody's absence went deeper than money. McKelie remembers times when younger siblings would require care when sick or upset, and Kody would not be there to assist. Instead, older kids were left to pick up the slack, usually teenagers, who would have to juggle school, taking care of themselves, and their younger siblings' needs. This formed a setting in which children were compelled to mature earlier than they ought to have, learning to handle emergencies without the assistance of the parent who ought to have been their guardian. Picture crying out for aid, and the individual who should be there with you, the one you refer to as dad, isn't anywhere around. That's the truth McKelie claims her family experienced. Even the wives became entangled in this trap of imbalance. Christine Brown outlined that she had to depend greatly on her older kids and extended family members to take care of the home and younger children. The absence of support from Kody not only hurt the children emotionally, but also created a very heavy burden on the adults who maintained the family's day-to-day life. Viewers of the show tended to view Kody as the glue that held the family together, the stable hand that kept everything running smoothly. But off-camera, the situation was very different. The home was organized in a manner that was both emotionally and financially stressful, with children left to deal with circumstances that were supposed to belong to their father. By managing the finances, placing personal luxuries first, and staying largely absent from important family obligations, Kody's behavior, in McKelie's opinion, had long-term consequences for his children. These findings not only surprise television viewers, but also contradict the family dynamic that has been established on television for more than a decade. Kody Brown, once seen as the reliable patriarch of the sister wives family, is now accused of mismanaging TLC money, neglecting his children, and creating an environment where responsibility fell unfairly on the older sibling. The revelations shared by McKelie Padron paint a picture of a family struggling to balance love, loyalty, and financial fairness, all while under the watchful eyes of millions of fans. Imagine this money designed to take care of your children, to purchase food, clothing, and a secure residence, in the hands of the very individual who is supposed to be caring for them. Now consider the same individual, splurging on Mercedes cars, mansions, and personal pampering, while your kids do without. This is the truth, McKelie Padron, Kody Brown's daughter, has uncovered about her dad. For years, Sister Wives viewers have witnessed the Browns' glamorous times, but behind the scenes, there is a tale of financial mismanagement, favoritism, and neglect that will leave you speechless. The Brown family's finances have always been complicated. Sister Wives Network, TLC, pays the family via Kody Brown Family Entertainment LLC, a firm that handles the income of the show. On paper, every adult in the family, the wives included, was to be paid for services performed on the show. However, realistically, McKelie says that Kody made every decision regarding the money, doling out who received what and when. Though the wives played their part on the TV show and helped contribute to the household income for the family, money that was supposed to be allocated to children and everyday living expenses was at times diverted to Kody's own whims. He allegedly bought expensive cars, mansions, and other lavish things, with groceries, clothing, and childcare funds more often depending on the wives' initiative and Kody's approval. Imagine being a wife or child in that household. You've contributed to the family's livelihood and the success of a major reality show, yet the money you've earned is not guaranteed for your own needs. Christine Brown explained that she would ask Kody for money needed for essentials, like food or school expenses, but never knew for certain how much anyone else in the family was receiving. McKelie discovered that this uncertainty bred tension and distrust in the family, because the children felt they needed to struggle for every need, while others were given special treatment. Money should be used to take care of your family, not as a tool of control. But in the Brown family, that line was crossed. More troubling, the financial arrangement muddled the distinction between personal and household money. Kody's oversight of funds allowed him to determine how and when to share funds, reserving for himself considerable autonomy, while other family members relied on his discretion. McKelie noted that critical household expenditures were frequently left to older children and wives, producing stress, disparity, and resentment. The dynamic created a challenging reality for the children. Though they were warranted TLC funds for their efforts on the program, they had to sit by and see their dad live in extravagances that they themselves could not enjoy. For the younger kids, this led to feelings of neglect and favoritism, where some were given more attention than others as well as more resources. McKelie observed that Solomon and Ariella tended to get more attention and favor, while the other siblings felt ignored and invisible. Picture your father taking money to buy a new Mercedes or an expensive SUV, while you and your siblings can't even eat or pay bills. That's the agonizing reality, McKelie described. The financial pressure also hit the wives. Christine described much of the responsibility for keeping the household running landing on her and her elder children. With Kody unavailable or preoccupied, grocery shopping, meal preparation, and bill paying fell disproportionately on those already doing their part for the family's work on the show. McKellie's testimonies documented that even when funds were asked for, they had to be approved by Kody, making needs secondary to control. Outside of the home, McKelie spoke about emotional damage. Money as a utilitarian aid also represents security and concern. When Kody withheld or managed funds poorly, it communicated to the kids that their fundamental needs were subservient to his own convenience. This broke down trust and bonding between father and children over time, and established a home in which fear and doubt supplanted stability. When money control is a power move, it doesn't only touch wallets, it touches hearts. And for the Brown kids, it left lasting emotional wounds. Kody's lifestyle also made things more complicated. While families might be sustained on one dominant income, Kody reportedly spent his portion of TLC cash nearly entirely on personal extravagances, vehicles, upscale residences, and luxury items for himself and Robyn. The daily needs for the other kids were then left to the wives to cover, and many times it was from money they worked for themselves. This created a lack of balance in responsibility and emotional attachment. What is surprising about the tale is that the children, though belonging to a rich and popular family, witnessed neglect and favoritism themselves. McKelie said some of the elder children, including her, were made to grow up fast, juggling domestic responsibilities, while Kody lived in comfort. It is irony. On the one hand, the family lived with fame and riches, on the other, children did without minimal care. Viewers of Sister Wives have long argued over the equity of the family's financial arrangement. McKellie's expose brings depth to this argument, focusing on the true-life reality of money in the hands of one individual who cares more about personal benefit than overall well-being. In fact, this part of the narrative is a graphic illustration. Kody Brown's financial choices, if careless or deliberate, had profound consequences within the household. Wives and children were burdened with duties that ought to have been divided or monitored by the father. One person's luxuries were another's shortages, bringing emotional and functional conflict. By opening up here, McKelie enables viewers to grasp the reality of life behind the scenes of the Brown family. It's a tale of imbalance, nepotism, and the repercussions of power gone wrong. And as we delve deeper, it's obvious that the money troubles were only one aspect of the greater narrative of emotional abandonment and family acrimony that governed the Brown kids' lives. Picture yourself being little, being ill and in need of nursing, and the individual who is to be your guardian, the one you call dad, isn't around. Then picture yourself as a teen, being left to feed and care for younger brothers and sisters, with the parent being more concerned about personal relationships and personal convenience. It was unthinkable. But for the Brown kids, it was reality. Behind the Sister Wives cameras, where millions witnessed a seemingly blissful family, was a secret history of neglect, preferential treatment, and emotional neglect that created deep-seated scars among Kody Brown's children. The Brown family, who made a name for themselves with their polygamous family and television reality show success, has never been far from the spotlight. On screen, Kody Brown is cast as the strong guiding figure, the patriarch that holds a large, complicated family together. But Kody's daughter McKelie Padron has exposed an eerily different truth, where parental presence is routinely lacking, particularly for the youngest children such as Truly. McKelie explained that in times of crisis, such as illness or emergency, Kody was often missing. Rather, older siblings like McKelie and Aspen were left in charge of younger children, cooking meals, and doing household chores, responsibilities far beyond those that teenagers ought to be expected to handle. In truth, barely a toddler then, often received the attention of a parent only when not needed most. This absence of parents provided a home environment in which older children were de facto caregivers, juggling school, household responsibilities, and emotional demand. Stress from these obligations was supplemented by Kody's off-camera absence, which McKelie portrays as virtually total when cameras were not present. Although on camera, filming might capture rare glimpses of family interaction, off-camera the children frequently felt ignored, unseen, and emotionally abandoned. When a parent is missing in the moments that matter most, children don't just miss support, they feel invisible. Favoritism was also part of Kody's style that strongly impacted the family. McKelie opened up that although some children were given more attention and affection, specifically Solomon and Ariella, others were neglected. This brought about a deep sense of unfairness in the home. The older siblings tended to bear not just domestic chores, but also catering to the feelings of younger siblings who yearned for parental love. Financial neglect compounded emotional neglect. While on occasion money earned on the show was spent on the home. Kody allegedly spent much of it on personal indulgences. Older kids thus bore the burden of both functional requirements, such as providing for and clothing siblings, and emotional consequences of not being supported by their father. McKelie underscores that this dual neglect, financial and emotional, defined their childhood in ways that TV audiences never witnessed. Neglect is not necessarily about what's missing, it's about what should be there. And for the Brown children, a father's concern was too often lacking when they needed it most. McKelie had a very disturbing illustration. When Truly was young and ill, Kody wouldn't intervene to assist, rather staying at Robin's residence. This left McKelie and Aspen to care for a toddler and some additional younger siblings. Even for the purposes of obtaining medical care, the father was apparently unwilling to step in, leaving children and mother to do it all by themselves. Christine Brown, one of Kody's wives, also confirmed that she had to depend greatly on her older kids and her mother to take care of Truly and other younger kids. The absence of support from parents pushed the kids into responsibilities that were below their age. McKelie remembers feeling frustrated, angry and helpless, feelings that are all too valid considering the situation. Being a kid should mean protection, care and guidance. For the Brown kids, it meant duty, pressure and sometimes terror. We now know the whole extent of what life behind the lenses was like for the Brown family because of McKelie's disclosures. It is a tale of disparity, emotional tension, and the quest for validation, justice, and love. The expectation now is that of accountability, healing, and comprehension as the family continues to deal with the repercussions of choices years earlier.